You were never meant to know the full truth. From the moment you took your first breath, the world presented you with a carefully curated version of God, of life, and of yourself, a version designed to keep you comfortably confined within preset boundaries. You were told, heaven is above, hell is below, and everything in between is a proving ground. But what if the very foundations upon which you've built your reality are merely fragmented echoes, deliberate distortions of a truth far more expansive, intelligent, and profoundly divine? Hidden in plain sight, obscured yet accessible, lies a body of knowledge so transformative that even many seasoned seekers of wisdom hesitate to explore it: the Urantia Book. It's not a religion seeking adherence, nor a cult demanding obedience, but a cosmic message, purportedly delivered by beings who exist beyond the constraints of our perceived time and space. It presents a radical challenge to everything you thought you knew: your faith, your scientific understanding, your historical perspective, your fundamental concept of what it means to be human. And be warned, once you've glimpsed the universe it unveils, your perception will be irrevocably altered. Its arrival was not heralded by divine pronouncements or dramatic celestial events. No burning bush, no mountaintop commandments, no thunderous voice from the heavens. Instead, in the hushed atmosphere of a Chicago home in the early 20th century, it quietly began to unfold. A man whose identity remains a subject of much debate would enter a state of deep, seemingly unnatural sleep. While in this unconscious state, an intelligence, or perhaps a collective of intelligences, communicated through him. Attendants meticulously recorded these nightly sessions, capturing content of unparalleled scope and depth, not ambiguous spiritual pronouncements or poetic musings, but a meticulously structured, densely packed, and profoundly revelatory doctrine, a comprehensive cosmology stretching from the very source of creation to the outermost reaches of the multiverse. Initially, doctors, skeptical academics, lawyers, and religious scholars gathered to study these enigmatic transmissions, eventually coalescing into what is now known as the Urantia Foundation. They referred to these sessions simply as the contact. The entities communicating through the sleeping man identified themselves not as disembodied spirits or ethereal ghosts, but as celestial personalities, administrators of universal reality itself: seraphim, Melchizedeks, Vorondadeks, and ultimately, a being claiming to be a Michael son. They asserted that the information was not being channeled in the conventional sense, but transmitted under a meticulously defined spiritual protocol, and that its purpose was not to establish another religion, but to inaugurate a new epoch in planetary evolution. Urantia, they declared, was our world's designation in the cosmic registry, and Earth, as we currently perceive it, is but a fragment of a vastly larger, intelligently designed cosmos. The book, published in 1955, spans over 2,000 pages, divided into 4 monumental sections: the central and super universes, the local universe, the history of Urantia, and the life and teachings of Jesus. The sheer audacity of its scope left even the most open-minded reeling. It reads like a synthesis of quantum physics, ancient mystical traditions, and cutting-edge metaphysical philosophy. Some have speculated that it must have been the work of an entire team of brilliant minds. Others argue that its complexity, internal consistency, and sheer precision defy human authorship. Proponents point out that much of its language, terminology, and cosmological concepts anticipated scientific breakthroughs by decades, particularly in fields such as astronomy, particle physics, and the study of planetary evolution. Conversely, skeptics dismiss it as an elaborate work of spiritual fiction. Regardless, its uniqueness is undeniable. It doesn't draw from existing New Age ideologies. It doesn't rely on established scriptures. It constructs an entirely self-contained metaphysical framework from beginning to end. But here's what elevates the Urantia Book beyond mere literary curiosity: it never solicits worship. It doesn't claim to possess exclusive access to truth. It doesn't seek to build a church. Instead, it extends a profound invitation to expand your thinking, deepen your questioning, and recognize yourself as a soul engaged in a process of cosmic maturation. It describes Earth as a planet under spiritual quarantine, scarred by rebellion in the celestial realms, and suggests that these teachings were deliberately withheld until humanity reached a point where they could be received without gross distortion. If this is indeed the case, the question then becomes, why now? Why you? Certain aspects of the early Urantia transmissions remain too delicate to discuss openly here. To receive the full, uncensored account, subscribe to our free newsletter, Insights Academy. As a special bonus, new subscribers will receive a complimentary copy of the Kabbalion ebook. The mystery surrounding the Urantia book extends far beyond its origins. The identities of those directly involved were deliberately shielded, ostensibly to prevent personality cults or manipulative influences. To this day, no definitive author has publicly claimed responsibility for the core writings. Even the most ardent skeptics concede that the sheer complexity of the content surpasses the capabilities of a single, relatively uneducated individual such as the purported sleeping subject. Thus, the fundamental question persists. Who or what authored the Urantia book? Was it a benevolent intelligence reaching through the veil to guide humanity toward a new era of understanding, or an intricately crafted illusion designed to mimic genuine celestial revelation? Depending on your answer, the implications are staggering. The Urantia book is either the most ambitious act of spiritual deception in modern history, or the closest thing we've ever encountered to a galactic constitution for the soul. And if even a tenth of its assertions hold true, then the world you were raised within, the narratives you were told about God, Jesus, creation, and the very nature of the universe are merely faint echoes, shadows dancing on the wall of a much grander reality. What lies behind those shadows is not emptiness, but radiant light. A light you were never intended to see, perhaps, until now. If your understanding of God has been shaped by academic institutions, religious doctrines, or cultural norms, then what you received was an icona-symbolic representation, not a living reality. You were presented with a simplified image, an elderly figure dwelling in the heavens, omnipotent yet distant, passively observing from afar. However, according to the Urantia book, this view is not only limited but fundamentally misleading. Behind the visible tapestry of our material universe lies a breathtaking celestial architecture, a living, conscious administration that orchestrates existence with the precision and elegance of a divine operating system. This system extends far beyond the familiar notions of angels and spirits, delineating an intricately structured cosmic government populated by beings whose titles resemble professional designations more than mythological archetypes. Their purpose: to oversee, nurture, and guide the evolution of entire worlds, like our own, each a vital node in a universe that is not random or chaotic but meticulously planned and executed. At the apex of this structure resides the universal Father, pure Spirit, infinite source, the divine nucleus of all creation. Yet this Father does not operate in isolation. Creation is not dictated from a solitary throne. It is administered through a hierarchy of divine agents. The eternal Son and the infinite Spirit serve as co-creators of reality, and from them emanates a dazzling array of spiritual personalities, beings whose very essence is purposeful intelligence. We are introduced to the Isle of Paradise, the geometric and spiritual center of all existence, surrounded by 7 super-universes, each governed by beings known as the Ancients of Days. These are not mere metaphors or allegorical figures. The Urantia book presents them as literal, hyper-intelligent administrators existing beyond the constraints of our perception of time, overseeing unfathomable expanses of inhabited worlds. Our universe, Nebadon, is but one of countless local universes contained within a single super-universe, and its appointed sovereign is a being called Michael, whom the Urantia book identifies as none other than Jesus Christ himself. More on this to follow. For now, consider this. Within Nebadon, hundreds of thousands of inhabited planets like Urantia are organized into constellations and systems, each with its own cohort of spiritual administrators. The hierarchy extends downward. Melchizedeks, Vorondadeks, Lananandeks, life carriers, seraphim. Every role serves a specific function. Every being fulfills a divine purpose, and nothing is arbitrary or accidental. Unlike traditional religious models where heaven is conceived as a singular abstract realm, this vision is operational. It resembles a divinely orchestrated ecosystem where growth, evolution, and harmony are meticulously coordinated through intelligent design. Even rebellion, we are told, is accounted for within the overarching plan. Earth's spiritual isolation, the profound sense of quarantine that has permeated our myths and metaphors, is a direct consequence of past cosmic insubordination. Lucifer, Caligustia, and other spiritual beings are said to have deviated from the divine order, thus interfering with our planet's natural trajectory of development. Their actions effectively severed Urantia from the standard circuits of spiritual communication, leading to humanity's long-held sense of cosmic solitude. This hierarchy is not merely a form of metaphysical poetry. It fundamentally redefines everything you thought you understood about the nature of the universe. Instead of a desolate cosmos filled with lifeless voids, the Urantia Book presents a universe teeming with intention, where spiritual beings function as civil servants of the divine, where evolution is intelligently guided, and where every soul, including your own, is being quietly shepherded toward its ultimate potential. But this concept, the notion of an intelligent spiritual government operating behind the veil of our perceived reality, poses a direct threat not only to scientific orthodoxy, but also to the core tenets of organized religion. If spiritual authority is not vested exclusively in a single book, a particular church, or a solitary savior, then the mechanisms of institutional control begin to crumble. You begin to awaken to the realization that heaven was never intended to be a secret. It was created to be explored and understood, and that what you previously believed to be angels are in fact administrators of love, law, truth, mercy, growth, and correction. If this sounds difficult to accept, it is by design. The Urantia Book is not concerned with offering easy answers. Its purpose is to convey the immensity of the infinite to a finite mind. It does not demand blind faith, it offers a profound revelation. And once you engage with its teachings, something transformative occurs. A deep resonance awakens within you, not within the realm of logic, but within your very essence. It feels like an ancient memory resurfacing, and you may begin to suspect that the reason the world appears so broken is because it was never intended to function without conscious spiritual guidance. Perhaps that guidance has always been present, concealed within a language we have forgotten how to interpret. We have heard the story countless times: a child born in humble circumstances, a carpenter who became a teacher, a man who preached love and was ultimately crucified for challenging the established order. The narrative of Jesus is familiar, sacred to billions and subject to endless debate. But what if you've only been given a fraction of the story? What if the man known as Jesus was not merely a messenger of God, but a literal fragment of divine authorship itself? According to the Urantia Book, Jesus of Nazareth was not simply a prophet or an enlightened human being, but Michael of Nebadon, a creator's son responsible for the very formation and ongoing spiritual administration of an entire local universe. This is not poetic license. This is the central claim upon which much of the book rests. Michael of Nebadon is one of over 700,000 Michael sons, each entrusted with the creation and governance of their own local universe. These beings are divine offspring of the eternal Son, and when one of them chooses to undergo a bestowal to incarnate into the worlds they govern, they do so to fully comprehend their creation and to embody divine love in its purest form. The incarnation of Jesus on earth represented the seventh and final bestowal of our Michael Son, a mission undertaken not to validate his divinity, but to fully experience the human condition firsthand. His purpose was not to save us from sin in a punitive sense, but to complete his journey as a sovereign universe creator, and in doing so, to bring humanity into direct contact with the living embodiment of God within the temporal realm. This perspective effectively inverts the entire traditional theological structure. Jesus was not sent to die because we were inherently flawed. He came to live, to feel, to suffer, to connect, and to demonstrate what divine alignment looks like when expressed through a human form. The crucifixion was not a cosmic transaction. It was the tragic culmination of a divine demonstration in a world that, at the time, was unable to comprehend its significance. And according to the Urantia Book, virtually every aspect of his life has been misinterpreted. The gaps in the biblical narrative, the so-called lost years, are detailed in rich, evocative prose. His travels, his family dynamics, his teachings imparted outside of his public ministry, all are meticulously recorded in what is arguably the most comprehensive account of Jesus' life ever compiled. But the book goes even further. It asserts that Jesus did not merely represent God, He was God manifesting through a localized spiritual authority, not the totality of the universal Father, but a divine Son vested with full creative power within our universe. In simpler terms, he fashioned this reality and then entered it, much like an artist stepping into their own painting. This was not an act of ego, it was an act of profound compassion. A divine being voluntarily embracing limitation, pain, and uncertainty to illuminate the path of spiritual evolution from within. This portrayal is not designed to inspire mere reverence, it is intended to ignite conscious awareness. If Jesus was, in fact, a creator son, then his words were not simply teachings, they were frequencies designed to awaken something dormant within our souls. His actions were not simply exemplary, they were blueprints for our own spiritual growth. The underlying message becomes clear. Divinity is not remote or inaccessible. It is intrinsically embedded within the fabric of existence, and your spiritual potential is not a hypothetical concept. It is encoded within your very being. This understanding does not negate the sacred elements of traditional Christianity, it amplifies them. It dismantles the fear-based framework of sin and punishment, replacing it with purpose, growth, and a direct path to the divine. It empowers you to perceive Jesus not as a loophole for salvation, but as a mirror reflecting your own evolutionary potential, a model of what humanity can become when aligned with its true source. But here is the aspect that many prefer not to contemplate. If Jesus is something more than human, more than a Messiah, if he is a creator son, then the story of Earth is not simply a tale of random struggle. It is a narrative of oversight, of meticulous preparation, of ongoing spiritual governance, which means that we are not abandoned or adrift. We are being observed, nurtured, and actively invited to rise to our full potential. The central question is not whether you choose to believe it. The central question is, what if it were true? You were never destined to remain here forever, that persistent yearning you experience in moments of quiet introspection. The sense that something beyond this earthly existence is calling you is not mere fanciful imagination. According to the Urantia Book, it is the signature of your soul's true nature, because life on Earth, or Urantia, is not the ultimate destination. It is merely the beginning of a much grander journey. What you call death, the book suggests, is not an ending, but a transition point into the next phase of an intelligently designed journey, a divine curriculum, a comprehensive spiritual education that encompasses countless realms, dimensions, and stages, all converging toward a single extraordinary goal, the perfection and eternal union of your soul with the divine source. The book provides a stunningly detailed account of what transpires after death. At the moment of physical cessation, if your soul is spiritually alive, if it has consciously chosen to pursue truth, beauty, and goodness, it is preserved by what the Urantia Book refers to as your thought adjuster. This is not a metaphorical concept, but a literal fragment of the divine implanted within you. Your thought adjuster carries your soul's memories, personality, and spiritual potential to the next realm, the mansion worlds. These represent the first of many levels within the vast Urantia realm, a transitional state bridging the material and the purely spiritual. Within these realms, you are not subjected to judgment. Instead, you are educated, healed, and empowered to evolve. On these worlds, you progressively shed the limiting instincts of your material existence and begin to embrace your cosmic identity. Time continues to exist, but its perception shifts. You are provided with new bodies, more refined and attuned to the realities of the spiritual dimension. You encounter other beings from diverse planets, species, and evolutionary pathways. There are no golden streets or unending harp concerts. Instead, there are dynamic classrooms of consciousness, centers of learning, fields of service, and sanctuaries dedicated to profound soul restoration. You grow and develop, earning your advancement not through rigid adherence to religious doctrines, but through conscious choices that align your soul more closely with the divine source. Each stage prepares you for the next, and eventually, if you remain steadfast in your commitment, your soul merges with the thought adjuster. This event is described as one of the most sacred and significant occurrences in the universe, a merging of human will with divine presence. Once this fusion is complete, you become immortal. You no longer require reincarnation. You are now a new being, possessing a unique personal identity, an eternal purpose, and a place within the ongoing creation of universes. Your ultimate destination, paradise, the eternal dwelling place of the Universal Father. But even that is not the ultimate end. For those who reach this point, new opportunities for service arise, assisting in the administration and continued evolution of creation itself. This is not a narrative of karma nor a cycle of suffering from which to escape. It is a journey of ascension, not in a vague spiritual sense, but within a literal cosmic framework. You are not a sinner in need of salvation, nor a soul to be recycled. You are an eternal project in progress, a child of the divine being trained to collaborate with the creators. The pain, confusion, and chaos that characterize life on Earth are not without context or purpose. According to the Urantia Book, our planet has endured a series of unique setbacks: spiritual rebellion, planetary isolation, and evolutionary delays. Yet despite these challenges, every soul retains the same inherent opportunity for growth and transformation. Regardless of your starting point, the path of ascension is open to you. You can choose to embrace it, and this is the aspect that resonates most profoundly with many readers. It is ultimately a choice. There is no predestination, no forced enlightenment. You evolve through a genuine desire to know truth, to serve others, and to live with unwavering courage. These are not arbitrary religious rules. They are the signals that guide your soul toward its highest potential. Every act of love, every decision rooted in integrity, every moment of clarity, these elements shape your soul into something resilient enough to stand in the presence of the divine. The book emphasizes that the universe is not waiting to punish you. It is waiting to welcome you home. This vision does not demand blind faith. It invites curiosity, openness, and a willingness to consider that this life, as real and raw as it may feel, is simply the initial stage in a much grander education. When you finally graduate from Earth, your journey truly begins, not into a realm of vague notions or oblivion, but into reality as it was always meant to be: expansive, divine, and vibrantly alive. We have been conditioned to perceive the universe as a cold, mechanical accident, an endless expanse of lifeless matter governed by random and impersonal forces. Our science often portrays it as indifferent, and our culture reinforces the notion of our cosmic insignificance. We thus live with a subtle yet pervasive sense of existential grief, believing that we are alone in a universe that has no inherent concern for our survival or our ultimate destiny. But what if this entire worldview is a fabrication, constructed upon a foundation of limited perception? What if the universe is not inert, but teeming with life? Not chaotic, but exquisitely ordered? Not devoid of intelligence, but permeated by it? The Urantia Book does not merely suggest that consciousness exists within the universe. It asserts that consciousness is the very fabric of the universe, that physical matter, far from being the fundamental basis of reality, is simply the shadow cast by spiritual intelligence, that everything from subatomic particles to sprawling galaxies, from the intricate structure of DNA to the enigmatic force of dark energy, adheres to patterns established by divine mind. It boldly declares that science, philosophy, and religion are not inherently opposing forces, but rather three distinct lenses through which we can perceive the same singular truth, a truth that is at present fractured by the limitations of our understanding. Modern science is only beginning to catch glimpses of this deeper reality. Quantum mechanics, for all its intricate equations and meticulous observations, points to a universe where the observer inevitably influences the observed, where particles behave differently when under observation, and where energy and consciousness appear to be entangled in ways that defy the explanations of classical physics. In this realm between measurement and mystery, the Urantia Book steps in, offering a framework that not only accommodates this uncertainty, but provides a coherent explanation for it. It posits that mind acts as the mediator between spirit and matter, that consciousness is not generated by the brain, but rather expressed through it. Your mind is not a random glitch in the evolutionary process. It is a powerful tool of perception, designed to recognize and engage with divine intelligence. The book presents energy not as random motion, but as the consciously directed expression of divine will. It identifies 7 distinct types of energy, ranging from the purely physical to the utterly spiritual. all meticulously managed by intelligent beings whose primary function is to maintain cosmic harmony. It suggests that what we conventionally refer to as the laws of nature are not accidental occurrences, but rather meticulously executed protocols, enacted by beings of such advanced understanding that they operate on levels beyond our current comprehension. From this perspective, a supernova is not merely an explosion. It is a vital process within a cosmic ecosystem. The expansion of space is not random, it is purposeful and directed. The fundamental constants of physics are not simply the result of chance, they are carefully chosen and calibrated. This may seem too fantastic to contemplate, but then again, so did the concept of gravity, the existence of the atom, and the very possibility of the internet at one time. Throughout history, we have dismissed the invisible until it became undeniably apparent. The Urantia Book challenges us to transcend our fear of the unknown and to embrace a new definition of science, one that does not divorce spirit from the cosmos, but rather places it at its very center. This is not a rejection of reason. It is an upgrade, a radical expansion of its capabilities. Even our understanding of time is challenged. According to the book, time is a localized phenomenon, a construct used to organize experience within finite systems. Ultimate reality, however, exists beyond the constraints of time. Eternity is not simply an infinite extension of time. It is the absence of it. And just as we teach a child with simple building blocks before introducing them to calculus, the universe instructs us within the confines of time before ultimately inviting us to venture beyond it. We are all students in a living classroom. Each scientific discovery we make, each refined theory we develop is not a definitive answer. It is a milestone in our ongoing reintroduction to the universe from which we originated, a universe that is alive, intelligent, and remembers us even if we have forgotten it. If this perspective holds true, then science is no longer separate from spiritual exploration. It becomes sacred. Every telescope transforms into a form of prayer. Every scientific experiment becomes an act of communion. Every question becomes a doorway back to the ultimate source. The Urantia Book asserts that the future of human knowledge hinges upon our willingness to unify what we have artificially separated. The division between science and spirit was never a natural one. It was imposed. And when we consciously bridge this gap, we do not simply gain a better understanding of the universe. We begin to truly experience it as a reflection of intelligence, as a mirror of the divine, as living proof that we were never alone to begin with. Throughout history, every revolutionary idea introduced to the world has been met with a fundamental question that cuts to the very core of human discernment. Is this genuine truth, or is it a sophisticated form of manipulation? When the Urantia Book first emerged in 1955, it did not simply whisper new spiritual ideas. It presented a complete and utterly foreign cosmology that shattered conventional religious narratives. With no prophets, no established churches, and no imposed commandments, it offered only a manuscript purportedly authored by celestial intelligences, claiming the authority to rewrite our understanding of God, the universe, and ourselves. Naturally, such a claim sparked intense skepticism, because if it is authentic, it irrevocably transforms everything. And if it is fraudulent, it represents one of the most dangerous spiritual deceptions ever conceived. Critics were quick to scrutinize its origins. The book's emergence through an unconscious man, under the supervision of Dr. William Sadleira, once prominent psychiatrist and a self-proclaimed skeptic of spiritualism, raised immediate concerns. How could a book of such monumental scope and depth possibly originate from someone with no formal theological or philosophical training, and why were the identities of everyone involved kept secret? Was this intended as a shield against scrutiny, or as a means of avoiding accountability? Even the identity of the purported sleeping subject was never publicly confirmed, leading to decades of speculation. Was it the work of a single individual channeling these transmissions, a coordinated group effort, or a cleverly orchestrated hoax? Then there is the nature of the content itself. Unlike many channeled texts that offer vague, comforting affirmations, the Urantia Book is rigidly structured, filled with dense terminology and an intricate cosmic organization. It does not read like a spontaneous channeled transmission. It reads like a meticulously drafted spiritual constitution. This very quality lends it credibility in the eyes of some and fuels suspicion in others. Proponents argue that no single person, or even a highly coordinated group, could possibly fabricate such an internally consistent and massively complex worldview with so little reliance on existing doctrines. Detractors dismiss it as an intellectual labyrinth, intentionally designed to be too complex to be easily challenged, but lacking any real evidence of divine origin. And what of its theological assertions? The book fundamentally undermines central doctrines of mainstream Christianity, such as original sin, substitutionary atonement, and eternal damnation. It reframes Jesus not as the singular Son of God, but as one of many creator sons. To traditionalists, this verges on blasphemy. To spiritual seekers, it sounds like a long overdue correction. And this is the central paradox. The Urantia Book simultaneously offends the dogmatic and challenges the credulous. It offers no easy answers, demands no allegiance, and defies categorization. This alone is enough to raise suspicion in a world addicted to labels. But here is where it becomes more difficult to dismiss. Countless readers report a consistent experience, that something within the book bypasses the intellect and goes straight to the soul, that its words carry a resonance they have never encountered before, and that rather than persuading them to believe, it awakens something within them. It does not seek blind allegiance. It simply presents its message and allows the reader to decide. This is not how cults operate. This is not how manipulation works. This is how truth behaves when it recognizes that it does not need to beg for validation. So how do you discern the difference? How do you distinguish a genuine sacred text from a sophisticated work of spiritual fiction? Perhaps the more relevant questions are these. Does it make you feel more free or more controlled? Does it provoke deeper thought or demand blind belief? Does it encourage personal growth or foster dependency on an external authority? If a spiritual teaching expands your understanding of love, sharpens your mind, deepens your conscious awareness, and challenges your preconceived notions, then perhaps the true measure of its value lies not in identifying its author, but in recognizing what it awakens within you. The Urantia Book does not claim to be the final word. In fact, it describes itself as merely one installment in a series of revelations that humanity will receive over time. It never seeks to replace other sacred writings. It invites you to perceive them in a broader context, to revisit the ancient wisdom through a cosmic lens. Perhaps this is its greatest strength, not in closing the door on what has come before, but in opening the door to what is yet to come. The line between revelation and deception has always been a tenuous one. This is why awareness is so essential. This is why discernment is sacred. No one can walk your path for you, but when something arrives that possesses the potential to stretch your soul, disturb your certainties, and draw you into the profound mystery of existence, do not rush to categorize or dismiss it. Sit with it. Question it. Allow it to challenge you, because sometimes the most dangerous thing is not what ultimately proves to be false, but what you never dared to investigate. There is a reason why the Urantia Book was not widely embraced when it first surfaced. The world was not yet prepared, not spiritually, not culturally, and not even scientifically. It was too radical, too expansive, too far ahead of its time. But now something has shifted. Humanity stands at a critical juncture. Our established systems are faltering. Our institutions are losing credibility. And beneath the surface noise, millions of people are quietly searching for something deeper, something authentic. Not simply another religion or a rigid set of doctrines, but a comprehensive framework that can provide meaning within the chaos of modern life, while simultaneously pointing us toward a higher purpose. This is precisely what the Urantia Book offers. Not a prepackaged belief system, but a detailed roadmap, one that feels strangely relevant to the challenges we are facing in the present moment. We are currently living through a spiritual crisis that is masquerading as a cultural one. People are increasingly uncertain about their identities, their purpose, and their ultimate potential, and the traditional answers no longer provide adequate solace. Materialism is collapsing under the weight of its own inherent emptiness. Organized religion is choking on its own dogma. Science has reached a metaphysical impasse. What remains is a global population starving for meaning in a world that reduces the soul to a collection of chemicals and equates purpose with economic productivity. The Urantia Book cuts through this pervasive fog with remarkable clarity. It speaks to the soul in the language of the intellect. It offers vision without resorting to superstition, provides structure without imposing undue control, and most importantly, assures you that you are not an accident. You were never random or insignificant. You are a child of an intelligent, ordered, and living universe, and you are being prepared for something far grander than mere survival. In an era where confusion is profitable, clarity becomes an act of rebellion, and the Urantia Book offers clarity in the form of comprehensive context. It does not simply explain the nature of the universe, it elucidates your specific place within it, helping you understand why you feel restless, why you yearn for truth, and why this world seems both beautiful and tragically flawed. This is because Earth, or Urantia, is still in a state of recovery from a cosmic rebellion, and yet you consciously chose to incarnate here. You were not simply dropped onto a chaotic planet. You came here knowing the odds, understanding the challenges, and embracing the mission. And according to the Urantia Book, those who awaken on a planet such as this are not ordinary souls. They are forged in the crucible of adversity, trained in the midst of confusion, and uniquely prepared to carry the light forward when the world needs it most. This is not mere poetic rhetoric, it is a direct call to action. You are not here to numb yourself with distractions. You are not here to mindlessly conform, consume, and succumb to anxiety. You are here to evolve, to question, and to awaken others. The information contained within the Urantia Book was not intended to create passive followers. It was intended to cultivate leaders, not the kind who seek power and domination, but the kind who carry a clear vision, the kind who plant seeds of transformative thought that blossom into revolutions of understanding. Because what this world desperately needs is not more noise and distraction, but more clarity, more direction, and more profound spiritual maturity. The established systems of power actively resist this spiritual awakening because when people awaken to their true nature, they cease to be predictable. They are no longer driven by fear. They stop outsourcing their sense of purpose to institutions that profit from their confusion. This is the true threat posed by a text like the Urantia Book. It does not merely alter how you think, it transforms what you believe you are capable of achieving. It reframes your suffering as a vital stage in your development, interprets your longing as a divine signal, and affirms your individuality as a unique spark of cosmic intention. If this book truly is what it claims to be, then it is not simply a document. It is a countdown, a signal flare launched into the stream of history, not to dictate the past, but to illuminate the future, to awaken souls who were born into systems that could not possibly explain them, to provide a foundation when the rest of the world begins to crumble. And if you look around, you will see that this is already happening. The surge in spiritual inquiry, the erosion of trust in established institutions, the universal hunger for meaning that transcends culture, race, and ideology, these are not random occurrences. They are part of a profound global shift. Books like the Urantia Book were not written to be instantly understood. They were written to lie dormant until the world caught up. Perhaps that time is now. Perhaps that is why you are here listening, questioning, and remembering something you did not realize you already knew. Revelation is not reserved for prophets. It is accessible to anyone who is willing to venture beyond their comfort zone and confront the truth directly. In an age of information overload, perhaps what we need most is not more data, but a thread of cosmic intelligence to gently remind us who we truly are. You have always felt it, haven't you? That subtle sense that something about this world doesn't quite add up, that the rules you were taught from a young age do not align with your deepest instincts. You try to play along, follow the prescribed script, pursue the expected rewards, and articulate the right words, but something invariably pulls you back. A voice that is quiet but insistent, whispering that your life is meant for something more than simply fitting into systems designed by those who have no vested interest in your personal freedom. That voice is not a delusion, it is a memory. It is the echo of your true self, resonating beneath the surface noise. And the Urantia Book does not simply validate that feeling, it elucidates its very source. You are not here by mistake. You were not thrown into a meaningless universe to stumble blindly through life and die with your fingers crossed. You were placed in this specific time, on this particular planet, under these precise conditions, with a unique purpose etched into your soul. The reason you have struggled to find lasting fulfillment in conventional systems, religion, education, work, relationships, is because those systems were never designed for souls like yours. They were created to mold compliant citizens, not to awaken conscious creators. They were designed to preserve the status quo, not to usher in a new era of understanding. If what the Urantia book reveals is true, then your sense of disconnection is not a personal flaw. It is a powerful calling, a clear indication that you were never meant to conform but to challenge, not to be passively understood but to actively illuminate. The world does not need more people who have mastered the art of survival. It needs people who can recall the art of truth, people who do not simply accept the way things are, but who actively imagine how they could be, people like you. It reveals that authentic spiritual growth commences the moment you cease seeking permission to be your true self, when you stop outsourcing your sense of purpose to others and begin to trust the quiet whisper within you that says there is more. When you stop attempting to be normal within a system that is profoundly dysfunctional, something transformative occurs. You shift, you reclaim your mind, your path, and your voice. You cease asking if you belong and begin contemplating what you came here to create, and you are not alone. Across the globe, countless individuals are awakening not to rigid dogmas or divisive doctrines, but to direct spiritual experience. They are waking up to the limiting lie, the illusion of separation, and the false belief that power resides outside of themselves. They are remembering that alignment with divine intelligence does not stem from memorizing sacred verses. It arises from living in unwavering integrity with your soul's mission. This is what the Urantia book ignites, not subservient worship, but cosmic individuality, a soul-level awareness that proclaims, I am an integral part of something vast, intelligent, and holy, and I am here to reflect that in the world. You are not meant to live in fear. You are not meant to dim your light to make others comfortable. You are meant to think dangerously, love without reservation, and speak truths that shake the very foundations of obsolete systems. And if that makes you misunderstood, then that is precisely the confirmation you need. You are not here to be another echo in the chamber. You are here to be a frequency disruptor, a catalyst, a spark, because those who awaken early often walk alone at first, but eventually others will follow the light, and soon what once felt lonely will become powerfully magnetic. You will attract the tribe you have always longed for, not because you changed who you are, but because you finally began to live authentically, without masks, without compromises, and without waiting for permission. The path is not easy, but it is real, and in a world built upon illusion, truth is the most potent force there is. Most people live their entire lives within a borrowed narrative, one handed to them before they were old enough to question a narrative about who they are, what the world is, and where true meaning can be found. If you have made it this far, then you have likely begun to see the cracks in that narrative. Perhaps you have started to ask the questions that polite society avoids. Perhaps something within you senses that the Urantia book, however strange, controversial, or initially incomprehensible it may seem, is not intended to provide you with all the answers. It is intended to prompt you to explore a deeper question, and that question is deceptively simple. What if the truth about reality has been hiding in plain sight all along? Not everyone will understand it. That is precisely the point. Awakening does not come wrapped in comfort. It arrives with friction, with resistance, and with the inevitable pain of unlearning. The moment you begin to perceive reality through a spiritual lens, not filtered through institutions, traditions, or ideologies, you realize just how much of your life has been dictated by forces that had no right to define your soul. From that realization springs the true revolution, not an uprising in the streets, but a return to the truth within you. You do not need to become an expert in esoteric cosmic hierarchies or memorize every concept in the Urantia. So if there's one thing I hope you take away from all of this, it's this. You are not a random accident in a meaningless universe. You are a cherished, integral part of a grand, evolving cosmos, brimming with purpose and potential. And the yearning you feel, that sense that there's something more, is not a delusion, it's the whisper of your soul calling you home. The Urantia book offers a glimpse of that more, a vision of a universe that is alive, intelligent, and lovingly guided. Whether you resonate with every detail or find yourself questioning certain aspects, the invitation is the same: to expand your thinking, deepen your questioning, and embrace the journey of awakening to your truest self. Now, I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of this. What resonated with you the most? What questions do you still have? Leave a comment below. Let's start a conversation. And if this exploration of the Urantia book sparked something within you, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. We're just getting started, and I'm excited to continue this journey of discovery together.